Right, let's begin here. In another development in the drama between the Western Cape Judge President and his deputy, the Judicial Conduct Appeals Committee has recommended an investigation for gross misconduct allegations against Judges Hlope and Goliath. Now, Judge Hlope is accused of assault and Judge Goliath of racism. There's, of course, a litany of other accusations that the Judge President is also facing. But let's speak then to Mbekezeli Benjamin from Judges Matter. Mbekezeli, thank you so much for your time. At such short notice, as this is breaking news, the tensions have been laid bare for years now. How significant is this development?
Good evening, Bongiwe. This is a significant development in this particular complaint. You'll remember this complaint was filed in January of 2020, which is quite a long time if you think about that we went through a pandemic and everything. But that was when these allegations first were made public through a complaint that was filed by Judge Goliath against Judge Hlope. And in that complaint, she accused Judge Hlope of misconduct like abuse of power, the assault of a fellow judge in the High Court building, and of treating her improperly. Judge Hlope made counter allegations against Judge Goliath, and he accused her of racist utterances that she had made. So there was this fight between the two, and then it went to the Judicial Conduct Committee, which had made an initial decision to recommend a tribunal investigate it, but at the same time dismissing the complaints against Judge Goliath. So what this means, this current decision, means that both complaints, both the complaint by Judge Hlope against Goliath and the complaint by Goliath against Hlope, both of them are now going to a tribunal which must investigate these allegations.
So I suppose then we are going to go back to where we were, where we saw a public inquiry with evidence so that we get a sense of how things are going here.
Yes, well, in terms of the JSC Act, tribunals by default are not always public, but obviously you can imagine the public interest in resolving such an issue because it involves both the head and the deputy of a very important division of the High Court, which is the Western Cape. So I imagine that it will be public. There will be witnesses called. There will be cross-examination of those witnesses, like we've seen in previous tribunals. So that is likely what is going to happen with this particular one.
And of course, as you've mentioned those claims of sexual impropriety, racism, and sometimes, even reading through, I remember at some point reading through, Judge Goliath's affidavit and that complaint, talking about even in some instances how she was not even allowed to sit in certain matters. But there's another one that really struck me at the time when I read it. It was the fact that, she was claiming that the judge president was also then saying that some judges needed to be placed in a matter that was, by NGOs against the then President Jacob Zuma, and these were, judges that she claimed, were to be favorable, if I may even borrow that word from that particular affidavit, towards the former president. Mbekezeli, when I read that, it took me back to Sesthembelekni in a moment. And that is, of course, another serious allegation that has been leveled here.
So, Bongiwe, this is a very complicated situation, and we do need to be very careful in terms of how we approach it. I want to clarify that there are no allegations of sexual impropriety. As far as I've read the papers, that is not an accusation that's made there. And there's a slight difference between the allegation that Judge Goliath makes in terms of the kind of judges that were put in a case that involved the nuclear deal and the previous case that involved Judge Hlope and the allegations by the Constitutional Court justices. Those are slightly different issues because this time around, Judge Hlope was entitled in terms of the law to nominate judges to hear a particular case. But what Judge Goliath is accusing him of doing is of trying to allocate certain judges who would be favorable towards a certain party in the case. So that is sort of an abuse of power, which is quite different from the earlier allegation of trying to improperly influence judges in a different court. So that is the distinction between the two. But of course, the ultimate impact of all of this is that it shows some level of judicial impropriety, and that is likely to result in a finding of gross misconduct that may lead to, if he is found guilty, it may lead to his impeachment.
And when you then look at the racism allegations here that have also been leveled against, the Deputy Judge President, those are, of course, also going to be investigated. And one then gets a sense that there will be also probably some witnesses that are called as well in order to be able to look at that.
Yes, absolutely. There will be witnesses because the one big issue with that part of the complaint is that it is a bit of a he said, she said. One is saying that the judge used racist language against another judge, while she denies that she used that language. So it will boil down to what the witnesses say and what the witnesses heard to bolster that allegation. But also, that is also a serious ground of possible misconduct, and it may also be an impeachable offense if she is found guilty of having uttered such words.
Now, looking at the fact that these are two leaders of this, critical court when it comes to, the work that it does and, of course, its positioning as well, what do you think this does to the morale of that particular court, especially when the two at the top are at loggerheads?
It absolutely destroys the morale. We have heard some disturbing words from some of the judges who are feeling under stress by the situation that is happening in the Western Cape High Court. Some officials are also saying that they're sort of caught in the middle. And so this is yet again why this complaint needed to be prioritized and needed to be dealt with as urgently as possible. We are extremely disappointed that we are now going into the third year of this complaint and it still has not been resolved. So we hope that with the appeal committee having made this decision today to recommend the tribunal, we hope that at its next sitting, the JSC quickly appoints a tribunal and that tribunal goes to work to immediately deal and investigate with these complaints, because it cannot go on any further. That court and the morale at that court is suffering.
And I suppose even, the longer it takes, as you say, which was going to be my next question, that the longer it takes, the more uncertainty as well when it comes to the morale, when it comes to the work, when it comes to how things need to unfold on a day-to-day in that court.
Yes, absolutely. It does. The problem, again, is that this has taken long because of just the way in which the structure of the conduct system is. The way that the system is designed, it is too complex, too convoluted, because as I speak to you now, the complaint was filed in 2020, but it has to go across various committees within the judicial conduct system until we reach this point. And even now, it is still going to a tribunal, which is another step. And all of these steps need to be streamlined in terms of the law. And that is something that we as Judges Matter have been speaking about quite strongly, to say that Parliament now needs to play its role and make sure that the law is streamlined. Because, like you said, the morale in that court, the level at which people can work in an environment that is conducive to doing an important function, because providing judicial services and the administration of justice is an important function, and you need people with the highest level of morale to be able to carry out this important task.
And let's see how quickly it wraps up, Mbekezeli, and even gets underway to even begin with, because as you say, it's quite an important court, and this is quite a serious matter that one, as people have been saying, it needed to be dealt with, and you're even agreeing with them. So let's see then what the next installment becomes and how quickly this matter can get off the ground. That is Mbekezeli Benjamin, Judges Matter researcher.